Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so this happened a while back. I was 14, I'm male by the way, but 5'11 and 6 foot while wearing shoes. I went to a local grocery store with my parents that we will just call A Mart. It's a huge store almost like a Walmart, and the employees wear black polo tees which say, "How can I help you?" As usual, me and my parents entered the store and split up to go get our separate groceries. I was picking up some miscellaneous food items like chips, pasta sauce, sausages, and so on. I found some chips in a flavor that I like, but not the brand that I wanted. The current brand chips would have a weird aftertaste, and so I put the chips back on the shelf. And here comes a woman in maybe her 40s or 50s asking me why the ready-made pizza rolls were so expensive. I told her I didn't know and that I didn't work here. I can kind of see why she thought I was an employee. I was wearing a Black Panther shirt, which was mainly black. As soon as I said I didn't work here, she screamed,
"Don't try to fool me, I know you work here."
Meanwhile, shocked, I answer, "I don't work here. I'm just a 14-year-old getting groceries." A cashier from the front came and asked us what was wrong. Let us refer to the lady as Karen from now on. Karen said,
"This employee assaulted me and refuses to help me."
The employee, dumbfounded, says, "He doesn't work here." He then turned to me and asked if I assaulted her. I explained the situation to him and he had a look on his face. Something like, "I don't want to deal with this nonsense right now." He just tells the lady to calm down, then goes back to the registers. The lady then throws a tantrum and runs her hand through the shelves, putting a bunch of food boxes on the ground and breaking several bottles. The cashier called the cops like any sane person would, and I just stood there in awe. The cops arrived while she was screaming at me, and I don't remember what she said, but we both were made to sit down while they looked through the security footage. Turns out Karen had been shoplifting and was caught putting several items in her handbag. When the cops tried to cuff her, she sucked on straight to the face and her nose started bleeding. I don't know what happened next because I had gone back to shopping. Cashier told me that she was charged with assault, larceny, I think that's what it's called, and vandalism. Man, that was one hell of a day. Preface: I'm a bar manager in a franchise restaurant. We just had our first day of patio service since COVID hit. I finished an hour and a half after I was supposed to, because I had to deal with this Karen. So it's just before the last call and I'm doing the extra cleaning required to keep our restaurant COVID-free when my closing waitress, who's amazing by the way, comes to me. "Hey, my table is refusing to pay full price." Now we've had a crazy service and rocketed it all night even with a few hiccups. But I was in a great mood, especially it was almost time for me to enjoy my patio. So I put my understanding, compassionate, friendly manager voice on, go to the table, introduce myself and ask, "What seems to be the problem here?"
"This stupid jerk is overcharging us and I'm not paying. Here is a price on the menu."
Pointing at our new paper menus we give out. "Thanks, COVID." Me, ignoring the swearing. I see, I would also be frustrated. However, as you can see here, an eye points a bit above where she is. It says to go, which is not our dine-in prices.
"That's nonsense. You jerks are trying to rip me off. It clearly states the real price here and that's what I'm paying. So you go fix my bill or else."
Now, I'm pretty laid back and even though she was swearing at me, I'm thinking okay, I will buy a drink or two and that will make up the difference. Just to get her out of here at this point, as she's making a scene. Well, I can probably…
"Screw you, listen here, I'm not paying this bill. If you don't change it, I am calling the cops."
At that point, I've had enough. I was about to be nice and she decided to treat me and my waitress like garbage. Plus, if I'm being honest, I felt like the first night back, I had to defend my restaurant. "So, you're refusing to pay your bill? Are you going to leave?"
"Didn't you listen, stupid? No, I'm not paying. And I'm not leaving, you jerk."
"Okay, so you won't leave and won't pay your bill. I'm going to have to call the cops on this matter to resolve it.
Do it. I will call them for you.
So I go to the kitchen manager, who's also part owner, explain the situation and my plan, and he's like,
yeah, if they calm down, discount a couple drinks and send them away. Otherwise, do what you think is best.
Alright, it's on. For the first time in my 10-year restaurant career, I called a non-emergency police line to explain what's up and ask is it worth calling an officer over. The dispatcher says, oh yeah, absolutely. It sounds like she's getting aggressive and refusing to pay for a service. That's fraud. We will send a unit when we can, and if she gets violent, please call us back. I knew we were pretty low priority, and the whole time I was hoping they would secretly leave so I could just count it as a walkout, but what followed was the craziest 45 minutes. I was dealing with my tables, last cold drinks, her coming in to scream at me a few times asking where the cops were, calling me and my waitress more names. My favorite line though was,
I have kids at home.
Then her husband came in and actually talked to me like a human being. I signed out, and despite the Karen, I tried to take it. Husband says, look man, I understand the confusion and I know you're not trying to screw us. Is there anything you can do for me though? She won't pay full price, and she is stressed right now. I was going to offer to buy some drinks, but she started screaming at me. I would rather not have the police involved if you pay this bill. I can call them off and we can all go home happy. So I handed him a discounted bill and kept a copy of the original, hoping he would pay there and this nightmare would be over. No, he went back to Karen with his tail between his legs. She stopped screaming at me, but this gave her new ammo as now she found out I changed the price. She still refused to pay, now insisting the cops would shut us down when they got here. They pulled up calm, cool and collected. I told them the situation from my side. Customer won't pay and I can't give them anything else for free as per the owner. So I had to call him back up. Then I simultaneously thanked him and apologized for having to call them. Then I walked him to Karen. They listened to Karen's perverted one-sided story in which obviously she paints me as an evil villain, but these guys are clued in and already got her number. Metaphorically speaking, obviously. So they start poking holes in it. After about 5 minutes of back and forth with Karen, she started to shout at the officers, but they interrupted her. The officer tells her, look, you have to pay your bill or leave, at which point it is theft, and you will be charged. Also, it seems like this man already tried to help you out by taking care of a few drinks, and we still had to be called out here. You're going to pay the full price, and we're all going to go home.
But you're not the court of law. It is advertised as this.
Ma'am, I've already had enough of this, and I'm sure both of these poor guys have to. Gesturing to me and the husband, pay the full bill or you're spending the night in jail. She still kept arguing and saying that she would only pay the amount she first had in mind, and even tried to leave after putting the said amount on the table. The officer ended up cuffing her and taking her to the station to deal with her there. Not sure what happened to her there yet, but I hope she got what she deserved. It's been around 5 months. I would have posted sooner, but with a new baby, my eldest, my job and everything going on in my life, I just haven't had the time to sit down and post. My eldest son is doing well, my new son is healthy and happy. I hardly have any sleep, working full shifts at our computers. Tending to a baby, my eldest is doing karate and I'm attempting to keep some semblance of a normal household running smoothly. My husband and I alternate days where we cook dinner while the other cleans up. It's been a hectic few months. I was wiped. The dark circles under my eyes looked like someone drew them on with a Sharpie. Thankfully, my little one is good now and sleeping through the nights. So we're finally getting some sleep, but the stresses of dealing with my ex-friend Barbara and her crazy mother Karen had definitely taken their toll on us. Bill and I also have agreed that it was best if I quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom for a while. I posted 5 months ago about Karen and Barbara and their at-the-time shenanigans with Dave. Barbara tried stealing my husband, hurting her own husband Dave in the process. moved her psychotic mother Karen into their marital home, and they have been harassing us by putting our house up for sale on Craigslist and creating a fake Tinder profile for me. That is just the condensed version of the events that occurred. We did look into getting a private investigator, but they were too out of our budget to afford. Thankfully, Bill made some friends in the police department through their shared love of football and bowling. They began hanging out at the house more, and they were catching Karen and Barbara driving by and being on their nonsense like usual. A few instances to mention. The 4th of July. The neighbors hosted a block party on my street. There was a barbecue, music, and water activities for the kids. Once it was getting pretty dark, the kids got to play with sparklers and poppers. I was on the porch with my newborn while my husband and eldest were joining in on the fun. Karen's car comes around the corner and comes to a screeching halt. She starts blaring the horn, making everyone get out of the street. She was shouting out of the car at me as she was driving by. It was awkward and sucked the fun out of the whole party. Barbara showed up to the house trying to get in to see Bill. Our security cameras caught her moving around the outside of the house trying to find a way inside. We kept every door and window locked. Eventually, she began coming and sitting on the porch, almost daily for a few hours before leaving. I started noticing she was looking more and more disheveled with every visit. I've been hearing through the grapevine in my circle of friends that she has begun using drugs. I was at the grocery store with my newborn picking up the usual groceries, and I noticed Karen was there but tried not to give her any attention. My newborn was in his car seat in a cart, and I noticed Karen was following me around the store. Any aisle I went into, she would quickly follow. I made sure to keep my newborn in my line of sight at all times. I was on high alert. I made it to the bread aisle and parked my cart. As I was grabbing the usual bread items, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck prickling. I look over and Karen is across the aisle, glaring at me and my newborn. I quickly put the bread into my cart and continued shopping. I made sure to grab the can of pepper spray that I keep in my purse. Once Karen saw it, she backed off. Once I checked out, I asked an employee to escort me out to my car. Karen followed me home but only drove by. It was caught on the security camera. And that is just to name a few. The police officers my husband is friends with vouched for us in court, and we were able to secure a protective order against Karen and Barbara. They weren't allowed to come within 1,000 feet of us, our home, or my husband's main office building, and my son's school as well. If they see us out in public, they can't come near us. My husband was hopeful they would finally leave us alone. Me, not so much. I knew a piece of paper wasn't enough to stop them from harassing us. They know we have cameras. They know Bill is friends with police officers, but they just don't seem to care. Karen was finally arrested though, and I'm here to share the whole ordeal. I'm trying to grow a vegetable garden. As we are trying to stay on a budget, having a vegetable garden would go a long way in cutting our grocery bill down by a good amount. It is not that we don't have money. It's that we're trying to be frugal and save money for a family trip to Europe when my youngest is older. Since I quit my job, our income isn't as high as it was. I go out once a day to check on it. It looked promising and I was very proud of it because I used to have a black thumb. I couldn't even keep a cactus alive. I got a notification on my phone that something tripped the motion sensor on my backyard camera. I looked on my phone and Karen was in my yard destroying my vegetable garden. I called the police. Bill and I watched her rage out in my garden. We heard her screaming that she was going to bring a gun and shoot me in front of my kids and my husband. We watched as the police came into the backyard with their guns drawn. I swear I could see the color drain from her face when she saw them. She began running, doing that audible moaning like she was terrified for her life. She tried to jump the fence, but an officer was able to grab her. She resisted, screaming that she was being assaulted by these poor cops. I laughed because that is such a Karen thing to do. I'm pressing charges, by the way. I also called Barbara's workplace and told him about her drug use because I'm now okay with being petty and I hope she hits rock bottom. Face first. Things are now quiet. No more daily drive-bys. Barbara hasn't come back. But after everything, we decided it was best to move again. We're moving to a different town and to a new house. We're selling what we can take with us just to have the extra money. I couldn't be happier with the move. As much as I love my current house, I don't want to live here anymore. I just want to move on with our lives and start fresh again. I know Karen won't be in jail forever, but at least she will be while we were moving and won't know where we've gone. This happened a few years ago in 2016. At the time, I was working for Company X in a pretty new industry, think less than 10 years, which means that there weren't a lot of rules and laws yet. I don't want to give too many details just in case. Most of the people working in that industry were passionate people willing to work for free. That's how I started initially, as a writer for another company until Company X recruited me. Because that industry was new and mostly consisted of passionate people, it was also mostly built by friends with barely any knowledge on how to run a business. It worked because people loved it, but it had a lot of problems. Most of all, everything that had to deal with contracts, paying people and anything HR. The little startup I was working for was no exception, and I got hired under a specific contract that was supposed to be used for people working for a short time period, not a long time contract. I was okay with it at first. It was one of my first jobs and I didn't know better. But I soon realized there was a way of paying less company taxes and that the CEO kept lying to us. We were all under the same contract and promising we would get a real contract next month, every single month. Yeah, then came the time when I stopped being paid, and that just made me angry. I lived in an expensive city and was paid minimum wage, on a bad contract, so passion had its limits. I borrowed money from my partner to make ends meet, and the CEO was using some of the company's money to pay for drinks too when he was out with his closest friends in the company. After 4 months of asking for my money and never seeing it coming, I went to the CEO and told him that I would sue if they didn't pay by the end of the month. Also that I was quitting at that same time too. He replied, "Go ahead, sue me. I'm used to it, and I'm not scared of you. You won't win." That got me so angry I resolved to sue. Little did he know everyone was fed up with the situation and I knew nobody had ever sued him. So I knew what he said was a tactic to deter me. I did my homework, forwarded emails to myself proving that I was owed money, that my contract should be requalified as long-term because it was hidden work, and asked for a large sum of compensation. When they got served, they paid me the 4 missing months immediately, asking me to drop all the other charges. I said screw you. After just under 10 months, not that long when it's legal stuff with lawyers and so on, they folded. I got my lawyer's fees paid by them, as well as a substantial sum of money. I was able to pay my partner back with a small bonus and to put some money aside too. Most of all, it scared them so much they hired some real staff to do the accounting, changed other employees' contracts to long-term to make sure they wouldn't sue either. And now I hear that people are paid in time, which is my greatest reward. Many employees actually thank me for suing them because of how it improved their own conditions. I now work in a different industry with a real contract and I make 4 times what I used to make. So even though I'm pretty much banned from that industry, I am totally fine with it and better off now. Do not tell me to sue you when you're wrong, because I will. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.